I'd say I'm a 6 out of 10 on confidence going into the World Cup.
4. We're not heading into the World Cup with a team that seems to know how to play with each other.
A 4, because it's not looking too promising with the national team, and I want to see more of them.
With just 1 year to go before North American World Cup, faith in the US men's national team doing anything significant has dropped harder than Atletico Madrid fans hoped when facing Real Madrid in a knockout round. But it wasn't always like this, not to the level we are seeing today. So what happened to the so-called golden generation of the US men's national team? Are they doomed, or is there still a way out? Back in 2022, the US men's national team had a decent World Cup run. They got out of the group stage, managed a draw against England, and then fell to the Netherlands. Despite that, the potential was real. For the first time ever, nearly the entire starting lineup was playing in Europe's top 5 leagues, and the squad was young enough to peak by 2026, and the early results seemed to back the hype. They won the Gold Cup in 2021 and followed it up by winning 2 editions of the CONCACAF Nations League, just America's very own version of the ultra-prestigious Nations League. All of this built serious momentum heading into the Copa America, with some fans even talking about reaching the final.
He wants to know, how far can the USA go with a full, healthy squad, Charlie?
Realistically, they could go to a final. They could go to a final.
Just days before the tournament, they got a taste of what was to come. They lost 5-1 to Colombia in a friendly, a 4-goal difference that hadn't been seen since 2016. Still, fans kept the faith. A few days later, the US managed to draw against Brazil, just that Brazil, the one that always follows its manager's tactical plan to perfection. That result helped patch things up a bit and gave the team at least a sliver of confidence going into the Copa America. The tournament started just as everyone predicted, a win over Bolivia, though the US men's national team missed plenty of chances. And then, well, came Timothy Weah's gift to Panama. They ended up losing, and in the final group match, they fell to Uruguay. The US men's national team had been grouped, a clear failure that cost Greg Berhalter his job. His tactics were disappointing. Basically, they gave him a Ferrari and he crashed it. Okay, with 2 years left before the World Cup and a good coach, things could still be fixed. Enter Mauricio Pochettino, yes, the same man who took Tottenham to the first ever Champions League final with that last-second comeback, and who, well, still didn't win the Champions in the end. His first big test was the Nations League semifinals against Panama, the perfect chance for revenge after being knocked out by them in the Copa America. It was time to get knocked out by them again. Pochettino went from winning a semifinal in the dying seconds with the Spurs to losing one in the dying seconds with the US. Oh, and they also lost the third place match to Canada. Still, he was new. He needed time to figure things out. The problem was that his players weren't exactly helping him. Ahead of what might be their last major test before the World Cup, the US men's national team scheduled 2 friendlies with a B team, no Pulisic, Weah, McKennie or Reyna. If they had already lost to Panama and Canada with their starters, these matches didn't bring any relief. They were trashed 4-0 by Switzerland and then lost 2-1 to Turkey. Their Gold Cup campaign didn't improve the outlook. Although they reached the final, they had a hard time against Costa Rica and Guatemala. They ended up losing the final to Mexico. Despite the 1-goal margin, the US men's national team looked clearly inferior. So what happened after 2024? Why did results steadily decline? And seriously, how is Alexi Lalas still employed as a football analyst? Okay, aside of that last question, which no one has an answer for, the rest at least have some explanations. Despite winning some titles, the team was never as dominant as some thought. In the 2023-24 Nations League semi-final, they barely escaped elimination thanks to a last-minute own goal by Jamaica. In the finals they won against Mexico, well, it was that Mexico. One of the worst we've seen. Yeah, the one that couldn't even get past through the group stage in Qatar. Most of the US men's national team's best results came within CONCACAF, a region that essentially consists of the US, Mexico, and occasionally Panama or Costa Rica. It's difficult to argue the team is improving significantly when their victories are mostly within such a limited field. That's why saying they've collapsed might be overstating it. They weren't far ahead in the first place. To truly measure progress, they would need to dominate the region the way Australia did in the early 2000s, when they left the Oceania Confederation for Asia after consistently crushing the opposition, including including a legendary 31-0 win over American Samoa. That kind of overwhelming superiority hasn't happened for the US. While they've had some good results, many were narrow, and more recently, quite poor. Another factor that contributed to the downfall was the lack of a clear project, starting with a coach. Greg Berhalter was rehired with the support of key players like Christian Pulisic, and the idea of going after someone like Zinedine Zidane was shelved due to the budget constraints. Yep, instead of the French legend, they went with Greg. Berhalter wasted no time showcasing his brilliant, innovative tactics. One idea and one idea only: send crosses into the box and leave wide open spaces at the back. If that didn't work, well, there was no backup plan. The team became predictable, unable to organize itself in attack or defense. In tournaments, they were often saved by individual brilliance from US players, or well, Jamaican players. But this tactical incompetence truly came to life at the Copa America. The US went up a goal against Panama after going down to 10 men. All they had to do was manage the lead with some solid tactical structure. But of course, Berhalter was the one in charge, and not only did they fail to hold on, they lost. As for Pochettino, there's not much to say yet. He's barely had time in charge, and the use of alternative lineups hasn't helped his case. Still, he deserves at least one more shot to prove he's better than Berhalter. Not that that's a high bar, but even if the coach hasn't helped, the players haven't exactly delivered either. A lot of the golden generation narrative feels exaggerated. Sure, many play in Europe, but guys like Gio Reyna, Tyler Adams, and Matt Turner have had inconsistent seasons or barely play at all. That's no help when they showed up for the national team, coming from top clubs, without actual match fitness. And then there's Pulisic, who's been criticized for skipping national team duty during the Gold Cup. I know the calendar is packed, but building a strong team identity requires playing together, especially with the starters. If your best players are absent, the project will fall apart. And in the last Gold Cup, without them, the US team looked like a shadow of itself. To make things worse, even when the full squad is present, recent failures seem to have sent the team into a spiral, and with the World Cup just a year away, it's getting harder and harder to believe they'll snap out of it in time. One possible solution would be for all players to actually commit to showing up for the remaining games, so that Pochettino can finally shape his game plan, assuming he even has one. Even if they are just friendlies, these matches should be treated seriously to lock in a consistent starting 11. The other scenario is that, despite some players being out of form, the World Cup atmosphere with the home fans cheering them on might give them a boost and help them pull off some decent results. Or hey, maybe the refs cut them a little slack for being the host.
Wink, wink.
All things considered, while I think they might get out of the group stage, everything after that feels like a big question mark. I don't see them reaching the quarterfinals. Worst case scenario, they crash out in the group stage. But at least they wouldn't be the first host to flop early. They just joined the lead club of South Africa and Qatar,